is the March 12th edition of our public policy meeting. We call it Issues That Matter. So we're really here delighted to have you here for our virtual meeting. This program is made available by our Advocacy and Action mission sponsors. So we want to thank those sponsors. We can't do our work without them, and we appreciate their support very, very much. And so now I'm going to turn the podium over to our committee chair, Dave Nitre of the Outdoor Discovery Center. So take it away, Dave.
Thank you, Jane. It's good to be with you all. We have two dynamic presenters this morning, and we're going to be able to check in on the important topic around different issues in transportation. With us today, we have Elisa Hoekwater, the Executive Director of Max Transit, as well as Aaron Thelenwood, the new Director of the West Michigan Regional Airport. Without further ado, we'll turn it over to Elisa.
Hello, everyone. I'm very excited to be able to tell you about the last year at Max Transit. And I thought I might begin with just a little background on Max for those of you who may not be familiar with our services. All right, so a little background about Max. We have 11 fixed routes, and they run from 6 in the morning until 7 at night. We also have evening routes that run 9 and 10, which is definitely a need in our community. And then lastly, I wanted to contrast our fixed routes with what is called the demand response service. Years ago, Max started as a dial-a-ride service, so demand response is very similar to that. It requires an advance registration the day before by 4 p.m., and it runs the same hours as our fixed routes. We also have extended hours through the evening, so basically you can get a ride on Max from 6 in the morning until midnight. All right, so this right here is a map of our service area, and you can see in the center the fixed routes with each of the stops located. But I want to just point out to you the area that we cover is quite significant. So the city of Holland, Holland Charter Township, the city of Zeeland, as well as Zeeland Charter Township. And then in green, you can see close to the lake is Park Township, which we added as a pilot project in 2017. And just recently signed a contract with Park Township to continue to serve with demand response services. So I want you to have this picture in your mind. The service area is quite significant. So I'm going to talk a bit about COVID in a moment, but I want you just to have this picture in your mind so you can see where the fixed routes run and then the expansive area for demand response. Okay, so mid-March, we found out that COVID was starting to creep up, becoming significant enough to take action. And after being notified by the governor's office that this was something that we had to take seriously, we recognized that we had to make some changes. So we recognize how important transportation is in our community. And as a management team, we evaluated what we could do to continue on through COVID. And what I wanted to, in this next slide, you'll see the decision was made by our management team. We can stop right there, was to suspend fixed routes, in part because of the requirement for social distancing. And so what we did is the fixed routes, all of our drivers who had been driving fixed routes were then assigned to drive demand response. And we continued providing transportation to all of our former fixed route passengers, but they could then go throughout the region with the reservation through the demand response. That seemed like a perfect solution for the interim, which we at that time thought would be about 3 weeks, maybe 4. And we got to work looking at what we had to do as an agency to maintain safety. So this picture right here highlights some of the priorities that we began to work on early in March and April. This photograph on the left is one of the devices that we purchased. We have two, and we fog all of our buses with a disinfectant and sanitize every surface within by hand, starting with bleach water. So the inside of our buses are extremely clean. We even purchased a handheld monitor. We swab all of the buses to be able to calculate how clean they are. So we're able to track that and monitor and make sure that the buses are properly sanitized. Clearly, we needed some additional utility workers. So we practically doubled our department. And then we made a very costly investment in sanitizing wipes, which were hard to come by, as everybody knows, just as well as toilet paper was. But we were fortunate enough to find a vendor out west, and we placed a purchase for sanitizing wipes to be able to last us 6 to 12 months. The next major undertaking was bus shields. And as you can imagine, every transit agency in the country was suddenly going through the same list of questions that we had. And so there was quite a list, I should say a waiting list, to be able to purchase plexiglass shields that were custom made to fit around the driver's station within each bus. We have 9 Gilligs, and we had to special order from the manufacturer of the buses in California. And that was a significant weight as well as a significant purchase, but it's something that we will have permanently. And it both protects the driver as well as minimizes potential spread of COVID. And then our smaller buses are the R-Box, which we have over 20 of them on our fleet, and we use those for demand response. So we were able to go with a local vendor in order to design those, and they came in rather quickly. So we were able to get those installed. And I just want to make a note. During COVID, our team really use some creative ideas. So one of the initial things before those bus shields came in is we literally had clear shower curtains installed in the buses. And that was something that, you know, was one of many creative ideas to maintain safety for our passengers. Next slide, please. All right, and so this is a photograph of the bus shields. And you can see that it's got a door, so it's a significant design, but one that we will continue to use in the future. Next slide, please. And then marketing, our marketing department was quite busy sending out press releases to make sure the community was aware of what was going on, notifying passengers. And one of the things that we had to make sure that we communicated was the need for PPE. So we provided masks for all of our passengers as well as hand sanitizer, and also made sure that everyone knew that in order to ride Max, you had to wear a mask, and drivers and staff were also required to wear masks. So that's something that we implemented early on and continue to implement to maintain safety. And then the last big piece that was really a focus for Max was recruiting new drivers. As you can imagine, social distancing requires additional drivers, additional buses, because we cannot transport as many passengers. So we have to expand our fleet. And we also need to make sure that we have additional drivers on hand in the event that someone becomes ill. Like many other businesses in Ottawa and Allegan County, we found ourselves with 10% of our staff out either due to illness or caring for a family member that was ill or for COVID testing. So that was something that certainly impacted Max during the pandemic. Next slide, please. Yeah, and so we continue to recruit. So, and one of the things I did want to mention as well is that we found ourselves really having to make some difficult budget decisions, and we made the decision to increase the starting wage for our bus drivers, which increased $2 per hour, which may not seem a lot, but it was a significant task on our part to make that happen. And we hope that we can continue to recruit so we can continue to expand our services. Next slide, please. Okay, so these are some of the impacts of COVID on Max. I did want to just take a moment to talk about our ridership. And this is something that I don't have a slide to show you, but transit agencies across the country found an immediate drop in ridership of about 90%. And Max was not unlike other transit agencies. We did indeed see that decrease. But the good news is that we do have fixed routes that resumed on March 1st. So we are super excited to be back in business. Next slide, please. All right. And with those fixed routes resuming on March 1st, we did a lot to equip our team to be flexible. And so we had a refresher training for all of our drivers. And we've even recruited staff members who have CDLs to step in and drive as backup as needed. So that's certainly something that's helped. And again, I just want to communicate the commitment on the part of our team is pretty tremendous. During a pandemic, you see what people are made of and what their values are. And I can just tell you that we have a remarkable team that is truly committed to the community. They care about the passengers that they transport and really have made a great sacrifice to make sure that they can continue providing the transportation. Next slide, please. All right, now I mentioned the creativity at Max, and that's something that I really praise my team for, because we have come up with some pretty great ideas to maintain service during a very difficult time. But during that time, we've also thought, well, what can we do to improve upon our service? We were just about to launch an additional route that would decrease the waiting time for our passengers. And that was something that we were really excited about. So we looked at other ways that we might be able to innovate and improve services. So the next slide is going to show you something that just launched March 1st. And you can download an app called Route Shout, which you can get either through Google Play or Apple. And this will enable you from any mobile phone to view the bus times. You can view the schedule, and it will locate you and show you where the bus is, and you can actually follow it on the map. And the next slide will show you an example. So it's pretty cool. It'll tell you exactly when the bus is arriving. And in this case, I was curious to know when the bus was going to be coming to the north side Russes. And it's a quick stop. So obviously, if I were there, I would have a 28-minute wait, and then the bus would pick me up and take me on my way. So I encourage anyone and everyone to get this app and try it out. And fixed routes are currently free, so as well as our demand response services. So it's a perfect opportunity to try it out and see how things are working in our community. So I did want to just highlight some of the other good news in regard to innovations and improvements. We have been busy working on grants, and thankfully, this next slide is going to show you that we just learned that we were the recipient of a national low-no emissions grant, which basically means that we have over $1 million that was awarded to Max in order to purchase 4 electric shuttles and 2 charging stations. So we have been meeting with the Holland BPW, looking at the ability to get charging stations that hopefully are level 3. So those are the fast chargers. And we're really looking at ways that we can continue to minimize emissions. Many of you who have known me over the years know that I formerly worked with the Makatawa Area Coordinating Council and a strong supporter of Green Commute Week. So I think that Max has been a partner since the beginning, and we want to continue to make a difference in the community and do what we can to reduce emissions. Next slide, please. All right, and this is the other good news. So Route 12, which was supposed to launch during the pandemic, is still in the works. And I think this is an exciting opportunity for our passengers because it's a circular route that connects two existing routes and will really minimize wait times for people. So it's on the north side. And you will see from this map that it will be, it's an east-west route, and it's a connector that we've long needed. So I am really excited that our team came up with this design and has looked at, we have a bus that we've just been able to purchase. So we're ready to roll. We simply need to make sure that we have the staffing ability, and obviously that's something that we're going to watch the numbers through COVID and see how our ridership continues to expand. Next slide. Okay, coming up, I want to quickly highlight the fact that we have a millage coming up, and that's May 4th. And that millage is going to be a renewal of our funding. So I did want to just make that note, and Beth Higgs, our Deputy Director, will be coming back to the Chamber to give you all an update on that proposal. We also have great support from Lakeshore Friends of Transit, and we're thankful for that group of committed volunteers who are basically getting the word out about the need for transit in our community, how we serve our passengers, and just to make people aware of how important a service this is for such a small community. We're very fortunate to have such a robust transit system. That's all I have for you. So thank you so much today, and I look forward to any questions that you have.
I think let's jump right to Aaron, and then we'll start our Q&A after that presentation. In the meantime, if you do have a question, please, you can type it in the chat and I'll keep track of those and then call on you once we enter that phase. So thank you, Elisa. Appreciate the presentation. Look forward to peppering you with some fun questions here in a little bit. Aaron, are you ready to go?
I'm as ready to go as I'm going to be. That was a great presentation, Lisa, and I definitely learned quite a few things, and I'm hoping we might be able to cross collaborate in the future. So, hey, my name is Aaron Thelenwood. I'm the new director and the first director of the West Michigan Regional Airport Authority. I've been here within the Holland-Zeeland region working professionally since approximately since 2014, if we want to be technical. I spent a good chunk of 2014 to 2016 serving as what I like to refer to as an administrative placeholder for the city of Holland before landing permanently in that capacity as their solid waste recycling and sustainability coordinator, as well as the assistant manager for the airport authority. And that evolved eventually into this role now as the director this past January. Looking forward to sharing a little bit about the airport and kind of what our trials and tribulations have been in this whole new COVID environment. Before I get too far into my slides, what I'd like to give is a quick kind of rundown of what the airport is. This is a public airport, so we're part and a critical part of both the state's overall transportation infrastructure system and aviation infrastructure system, as well as the national infrastructure system, or what's referred to as a Tier 1 airport, which basically serves critical need to both access defined economic hubs, as well as responding to essential and critical state airport system goals and objectives. So to give you a quick summary of what those objectives are, it's access to population center, access to business center, tourism centers, access to aviation for the general population, and those kind of priorities. So to kind of give you an idea of the goal we serve and the purpose and infrastructure system that we support. So we're a regional general aviation airport. So that's a mix of anything from private aircraft, corporate aircraft, to your small business operators and even your hobbyist pilots. We serve a variety of aircraft and aviation needs here, and we also have access to charter service. We primarily serve, corporations, nonprofits, and private aviators. That's really our bread and butter. So you'll see some, and that's the nice thing about being out here is you see some really impressive aircraft, and you see the guys that have just been doing this forever and love flying. We provide passenger and cargo flights, as well as aircraft storage and servicing. So it's a nice mixed bag of all things aviation out here. Next slide. So these are some of our key metrics. So as far as economic impact, so those of you who live within the member communities, Holland, Zeeland, Park Township, you'll have this millage assessed to your annual taxes. For a $200,000 home, maybe $250,000, you're paying on average about like between $6 and $10 a year. What that results in is $165 million of direct economic impact to this region overall. That's through jobs created, jobs that rely on the airport, companies that rely on the airport. So direct jobs here, as well as jobs that work for those various organizations. We have about 96 average flights per day. Now that's in good times. Bad times, COVID times, it's substantially less. So this is kind of best economic scenario. We have 48 based aircraft here. We graduate about 23 students from our fixed base operators flight school, and there's about 40 plus or minus life-saving flights per year through Holland Hospital and Wings of Mercy. So those are some key benchmark data that we rely on year over year. So when we're looking at the economic impact, how do we get to $165 million economic impact? You can take a quick glance here and kind of see where that comes from to give you an idea of what that economic activity is. So next slide. Communities that we have a direct impact in. So our member communities are the City of Holland, City of Zeeland, and Park Township, but we also have additional impact due to the businesses located in the rest of these communities listed here. And then this just highlights our member communities, and we've been an authority since 2008, and these municipalities have continued to support us, and the support has just grown and grown in our 3 member communities. So we like to highlight that we are a world-class facility, and if you have not been out here, with COVID restrictions, unfortunately, we've been limited to just aviation activity at the airport, but we're hoping to see more just general activity coming out here. Our facility was really designed both to serve a direct aviation need, but also be a resource to the community. We have access to conference spaces here, and our terminal was really designed to be both a staging area for flights, but also a viewing area for the general public to just come out and check out cool planes when they're landing. We consistently maintain our runways. We get very high marks for our ability to maintain our runways and keep our runways open even when hubs like Grand Rapids are down. Our runway is open. Our staff is phenomenal and insanely dedicated, and our last few weeks of really heavy snowfall was a testament to that. These are some of our additional benefits that we provide here, but once we kind of start opening up again, we want to see, general public coming out here and checking us out, because this really is the community's airport. So I'd like to stress that a lot. You may not fly, you may not own your own private aircraft, but this is a community airport. So communities typically welcome, except when, COVID restrictions. So we're hoping to get past that ASAP. Next slide. So as far as the local airport benefits, we really hang our hat on our support of our local economy, our local businesses, through our high quality airport transportation services, and our availability and working history with local businesses and nonprofits, by providing convenient and flexible transportation, whether it's cargo needs, whether it's moving your staff, whatever it is, that's really the need we serve. Now with COVID, like everyone else, we're taking some time to assess what other opportunities are there for us to serve the community. What are we besides, airport? Everyone else is kind of taking that step back as well and saying, hey, times are changing, and we need to respond. COVID has been the great leveler, and we need to reassess the benefit, the service we provide to the community. And some of these development opportunities kind of are indicative of that. We know we have a need for new hangar spaces, especially following the closing of Park Township's airport. We know there's a rising demand for cargo. But we're also looking at these non-aviation business needs, and I would say also non-aviation related community needs. So our challenge going forward is, how do we best use the assets that we have available? We have the facilities, but we also have land and property that we're looking to get development ready. And what are those needs that we can develop in a way that benefits the community overall? Next slide. So just at a quick glance, these are some of the local companies that we have served and continue to serve, and who frequently use our facilities here. I'm sure you'll recognize quite a number of them, just to give you kind of a better understanding of what our impact is. So business services that we provide, this kind of gives you a quick rundown. We have a fixed base operator, which is fly by air. To kind of simplify that, a fixed base operator is going to provide a lot of the traditional logistical operations you associate with an airport. So maintenance of the runway, maintenance of facilities, maintenance of aircraft, all those different types of things. And these are all the various services they provide. But I would also highlight on here as well, they directly partner with organizations like Wings of Mercy to provide emergency medical flights out of West Michigan. So Wings of Mercy is a very cool operation. If you need to get to a specific facility for a specific medical need, they coordinate with local operators like Fly by Air across the state and across the US to get patients where they need to go. So next slide. So again, we have our flight school. We graduate about 23, 24 pilots per year, and it covers basically all aspects of flight, whether you want to be a hobbyist or whether you want to be a corporate aircraft or flying on a major carrier. They provide all the requisite endorsements and all the requisite training opportunities to be able to learn here and go from there. Next slide, please. Jeffrey from Padnos, I see your question, and we can dig into that a little bit more too. Educational opportunities. So pre-COVID times, we liked, and we had a very active engagement protocol with local schools. We'd do site visits. We'd also have the training school in and of itself, but hosting class tours, hands-on activities at the terminal and in some of our hangar buildings. The nice thing I really like to highlight here too is, you look at an airport and it can kind of seem very technical and dry. It's an airport, it serves aviation needs. Planes go up, planes go down, planes get stored. But we have a lot of very key partners here, both from the community, but also down our corridor in Garrick Boulevard, through some of our private hangar leases that have always been very active in engaging with community activities when we've hosted them here at the airport. And we're trying to find our way in this new COVID environment to re-engage, and hopefully we've got new opportunities on the horizon. So as far as just what we have here, we've got a big, beautiful airport business center, and we call it a business center rather than strictly a terminal, because that is the intent. Yes, it serves the aviation need, but it also serves as a broader general business hub. All of our conference spaces are designed that, hey, if you get off a plane, you walk right in and there's a conference space there if you need it. And we've had that used several times We've seen people come in and relocate whatever meeting they were coming to this facility. I always like to tell people about when Jay Leno came for his show, I think the last Tulip time. He stopped here and, he bought a car from some guy locally. And so that's really kind of, we want to be a flexible, adaptable space to meet the needs of those people walking through the doors, but also the members of our communities coming in and saying, hey, I want to be involved with the airport. Big projects on the horizon. So this spring, we're redoing our entire runway. That's going to be a huge repaving project. The runway is going to be shut down for 2 weeks, and then the rest of the preliminary and associated work is going to cover broader, pretty close to a month, but only 2 weeks of actually being shut down. We're replacing all of our facility lighting, our runway lighting with LEDs, so it's going to be a lot more efficient and more cost effective. And then we've got some new, this shouldn't say pending, we have some new activity here. We just had a company, Nexus, locate to the airport. So they're an avionics business. They provide heating and cooling systems. And so that's kind of a first step in the next direction we want to go, is identifying these new business opportunities and business partners that we can connect to the airport and connect to our community. Next slide. Or maybe that's my last slide. The one thing I do like to highlight too is, we are in many ways a gateway to the community. Like I said, we are a critical piece of both state and national infrastructure. And so I always like to be real with people when they say, hey, you're talking to anyone outside of Michigan, the only community that really matters is Detroit. So when we say, hey, we've got this economic hub here on the west side of the state, come check out Holland, Michigan. Where's Holland, Michigan? We have this resource here. You can land, we can get you to your meeting, we can get you pretty much anywhere within the region within a couple of hours, and we can get you back home same day. So really having this resource here helps us support the broader economic activity of the community, local businesses here to be able to make those key partnerships, those key deals. And, we have a nice, beautiful facility to kind of serve as that initial gateway. So that's where a lot of our adaptability and service to the community, I think, comes from. And that results in economic impact, jobs, all that kind of thing that we really want to see out of an asset like this. So I know I kind of breezed through that, but I think I'm comfortable opening up the conversation from there.
Thank you, Aaron. I'll give you a second to take your sip of coffee, but it looks like we do have a question from Jeff Padnos on how the governing structure was originally set up for the airport, and specifically how Holland Township plays into that. I definitely saw a list of Holland Township businesses that use that airport. So interested to hear.
So the original governing structure, I think, was really, there were conversations back in the day on who to engage and how to engage and that sort of thing. And the communities that really took to it were Holland, Zeeland, and Park Township. And I think there was kind of back and forth with Holland Township back in the day. And I think the original millage vote failed by single digits. And honestly, the first approval millages as well probably passed by single digits. And I know there were a couple key recounts there. But now we've seen from those communities, so back in 2008, we're talking single digit votes to approve. The last go round in 2017, when we renewed our millage for a 10-year millage, we had over 75% support from all of our member communities. So in the communities that we have partnerships with, the support has only grown. And, part of my role and part of the board's interests going forward are, how do we build new strategic opportunities, whether that's with new community members, whether that's new community partners, or in kind of expanding the role and the initiatives that we serve in the community. So there's a lot of opportunity, and we're hoping to really capitalize on some of that engagement opportunity moving forward.
Thanks, Aaron. While folks are thinking of additional questions, I did see on that last slide, one thing you hadn't shared about was the northern taxi lane And what added capacity does that bring? What's the hope and the thoughts in that plan?
Yeah, and that's actually a pretty critical piece of infrastructure as far as our new new initiatives that we're pursuing. So we have a major capacity issue here. We are at capacity as far as most of our hangar space is concerned, and we really, if we want to meet needs and we want to grow, we have to develop new space. So over the next 3 years, we're working with MDOT, FAA, and our consultants to design and build a north taxi lane, and to kind of just dumb that down. It really is a driveway for planes, and it connects to our main taxi lane south of the building. And that provides access to what we're hoping will eventually become a northern aviation and economic development park. So it'll be a mixed use of hangars, aviation operations, cargo operations. It's kind of, the plans right now are very much at the visioning stage, but it really is an access point for additional infrastructure. We're surrounded by farm fields that the airport authority currently owns, and those all could eventually be new development opportunities for the airport.
Thanks, Aaron. Elisa, we had a question come in regarding your choice to remove the fees for services right now for Max. And just, can you talk a little bit about that decision and what your plans are for that moving forward?
Certainly, that's a great question. So one of the primary reasons we decided to offer our services for free was because of the exchange of money, and to minimize risk to both the passengers as well as to the staff that have to count all of the coins at the end of the day. We decided just to remove our fare boxes. But I did want to say that we are in the process of adding electronic ticketing. So we have actually received grant funding to be able to purchase that system, so that people will be able to use, either a mobile phone or just a quick key card that they can swipe. So we're looking at some different options right now, and we will eventually be charging fares. But right now it's we obviously recognize it's such a need in our community. And so now that fixed routes have resumed, and we intend to bring back routes 9, 10, and 11, and then be able to launch 12, we will certainly be needing that fare box revenue. So that's on the horizon.
Thanks, Elisa. See a question here from Daniel Martin regarding the operator at the airport. Aaron, could you speak a little bit of the operator change? Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the name changed, and it's not exactly the same operator, but Tulip City in and of itself is still effectively here. So back in 2016, when I came on board, the previous owner was looking to kind of, formally retire, and that's, West Michigan retire. So retire to go start another career. And so he sold Tulip City Air Service to Terry Bohr, who operated Executive Air out of Muskegon. And so there was a little bit of transition there. They purchased or they rebranded as Vision Air. But then from there, there was a little bit of a copyright dispute. So they've now become Fly by Air. So the staff of Tulip City and the overall operation is still intact. It's just under new ownership and new management, and part of a broader organization. So they felt they needed a change because they weren't just Holland centric anymore. So updating that name from Tulip City to Vision Air to Flyby was deemed kind of a necessary step. And then I've got a direct question here. So what is an FBO, a fixed base operator? I think that's a great term, and bear with me. I try not to just throw out the FBO and the various acronyms, but I do have a career in government, so sometimes it just happens. Fixed base operator, the best way that I kind of choose to describe it is they're they're what you would associate with the true operation of an airport. So my role as director isn't maintenance of the aircraft, isn't directing flights, any of that kind of stuff. My role is overseeing the community asset and the economic impact and the economic reach of the airport itself. The fixed base operator, they do the rest. They do the plowing of the runways. They do the maintenance of the aircraft. They run the charter system. They are a third-party contractor that we partner with for the operations of the airport. And you can have numerous, depending on the size of your airports, numerous FBOs operating on an individual airport. So Grand Rapids, you'll have multiple. Detroit, Chicago, you're going to have a bunch of different FBOs, and they provide kind of different varying degrees of services depending on the overall management structure at the airport. So it kind of depends from one airport to the next. The one thing that you love to hear in the aviation field is once you've seen one airport, you've seen one airport. They all operate a little bit differently. But in our role, our FBO serves a lot of those maintenance and operational needs.
Thanks, Aaron. We have time for one more question. And if I don't see one here, I'll hand it right back over to Jane to kind of wrap us up.
All right, Dave, thank you very much. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Elisa. Great information about these important transportation infrastructure organizations in our community. Appreciate all the work you are doing. Thank you, Dave Nitre, for being a great leader of this group. Good conversation today. And we want to welcome you back on April 16. We're going to do a special meeting discussing the ballot initiatives that are going to be on the May 4 ballot for many of us. So on May 4, you're going to see issues, as Elisa mentioned, related to the MAX transit renewal. And then you're going to see 3 school proposals. Holland Public Schools has one, West Ottawa Public Schools, and Zeeland Public Schools. So we have asked representatives of those 4 organizations to come in, give us the background, explain the need, and why we should consider supporting those millage votes coming up on May 4. So join us April 16th at 10 a.m. And then April 26th, a couple weeks later at 9 a.m., we have our virtual meeting with our Congressman Fred Upton. So it'll be a great opportunity to reconnect with Fred, and I hope you'll join us at that event as well. I appreciate you being with us today. As usual, we will send you a survey later this morning to ask you for your feedback on today's event. But more importantly, let us know what topics you'd like us to continue discussing with this group. We want to keep you in the know as part of our advocacy and action initiatives. So it's a wrap on today's program. Have a great Friday and a wonderful weekend, and hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.